welcome to Irish Football Fan TV. This is the watch along. We're here for Manchester City versus Crystal Palace. I'm joined by Gary Spain. Firstly, Gary, how are you? Secondly, James McCarthy is starting. What are your thoughts?
Well, all good, Paul, and I'm delighted James McCarthy is starting. I mean, we've talked about him quite a bit, and he's had issues with injuries, and it's great to see him starting. It's great to see him fully fit, and I really, really want to see him get a good run of games in the run-ups to games in March, because we can go on and talk about Conor Hourihane, Josh Cullen, etc. But for me, if James McCarthy is fully fit and playing regularly for Crystal Palace, he starts for me in Belgrade in the holding midfield position. And so it's great. He's fit and starting tonight. It's going to be a very tough test for him, obviously, with Man City at the Etihad. But I'm looking forward to, in particular, tonight, seeing how James gets on. And as I said, hopefully he gets a good run of games now.
Yeah, well, I think that's it. He needs a run of games without injury or without any sort of kind of disruption. He needs just a steady run of games now. The good thing about Crystal Palace is they're kind of, well, they're kind of mid-tables, but kind of struggling at the same time. But they do only play one game a week, really. So that would probably be ideal with the build-up of these games. If he can, survive the next 8 to 10 weeks without injury, that would be great for Ireland. And if he's coming in there in good form, we could really do him in the Serbia game. And I think then, if he does, because he's notorious for picking up knocks on international duty, but if he then, something happened to him against Serbia, we would have other players to come in for the lesser games. But if we had him there, that would be fantastic for the Serbia game at the very least. The experience that he brings, and I think he has a bit of a presence about him as well. Just as we say it there, that was Townsend tackling De Bruyne. I thought it was McCarthy. But I think he has a bit of a presence about him. Yeah, he is. It's just have to win the ball there and win the foul for Palace there. The ref gave the advantage. But yeah, just shows what he does anyway, as we're saying. Yeah, no commentators cursed that time.
But particularly when we're away from home in Serbia, we're definitely going to be under the cosh for periods in the game. And I think it's important to have an experienced, calm, central defensive midfielder sit in front of the back four and just slow things down, put his foot in the ball, win tackles. And I think he's crucial for us, particular for that game. And Luxembourg at home, you probably think less so, although I still think he starts if he's fit and available. But definitely for Belgrade, I think it would be really great to have James fit and ready to go. Now, I know it's a long way to go, but it's good to see him starting tonight and to be back to full fitness.
Yeah, well, I think that kind of leads me to another point that I don't think we mentioned last night was, Josh Cullen's form at Anderlecht. Vincent Kompany seems to really like him. I think he started 7 of the last 8 games and played 90 minutes in those, and seems to really be a big favourite of his now. Obviously, it took him a while to get settled, but I don't know if I think you were saying the team that they played on Friday night, and you were saying off air, I think that was, and you're impressed by him as well. So what are your kind of thoughts at the moment with Josh? I definitely have him in the squad if he's fit.
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely have him in the squad. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a funny one. Josh is a very talented young player, and he's playing in the same position effectively as James McCarthy. So he's playing with Anderlecht. I haven't been able to watch too much Belgian football. I don't even know. I don't think it's on any of the channels that I have anyway. I do follow it online and follow it on apps. And he was actually given the Anderlecht star performance on the app that I followed it on. So he had another impressive game on Friday night. Yeah, I was telling you, I know the team. Would have been a very disappointing defeat for Anderlecht. They lost to a team called Eupen they're over in eastern Belgium on the German border, and they're actually in the German-speaking part of Belgium. Most people wouldn't even realise there is a German-speaking part of Belgium. It's normally split between the French and Dutch-speaking parts, but there is a German-speaking part as well. And Eupen would be their main club. Bit of a yo-yo team between the top and second division, but they've got up in the last couple of years. I actually saw them play at home about 5 years ago now, and small ground. So it would be very disappointing for Anderlecht to lose to them. Having said that, Anderlecht are traditionally one of the top 3 clubs in Belgium, along with Standard Liège and Club Bruges. They're well adrift. I think it's 13 points behind Bruges at the moment. They're down in 7th place, so struggling to even qualify for Europe. But Josh seems to be doing really well from them. As you said, Vincent Kompany's been really impressed with him. He is effectively now a regular starter, plays 90 minutes virtually every week. So, and obviously the standard of football in Belgium is very high. So we have to seriously consider somebody that's playing for one of the top clubs in a league like Belgium. So yes, I would have him in the squad, without doubt, for Serbia. If James McCarthy was unavailable, there is a strong argument for him to be starting in front of the back 4, but it would be a very big ask for a young player to go in and perform that role away from home against Serbia in Belgrade.
Yeah, I think it would be a bit of a daunting task in terms of his first competitive start. I know he's come off the bench in a couple of games and stuff like that, and then he started friendlies, but as a competitive game, I don't think he started a game yet. So it would be a bit of a daunting task. I think Hourihane will probably be ahead of him in that pecking order. Just want to run through a couple of comments here. RC Vlog says, yo, and then he says, I hope you and Gary are doing well. We're all doing well. RC Vlogs, as well as we can be in these current times and climate. I hope you are well as well. And anybody watching as well, make sure you smash that like button as well, wherever you're watching, on Facebook or on YouTube. If you want to say that, and Gary, feel free.
Yeah, hi, I'm keeping well as well, RC, and hope all is well with you.
Dazza the Killer says, hi lads, and then he says, I never knew about the Netherlands thing around Carl Sheppard. Not sure what that is. Do you know what that is? I know he retired today from football.
No, I don't know what that is either, actually. Yeah.
Well,
I don't think he played there. I don't remember him playing there anyway. Yeah.
Well, just in regards to Carl Sheppard, he retired today. I think we should give him a mention, because he had up on his LinkedIn today, I have it here, the quote, or the statement. He says, 365 appearances and 89 goals later, it is now time to hang up my playing boots. At 29, I should be in the prime of my sporting career. Unfortunately, 2 months after my best season, I was diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis. I hope I said that right. At first, I didn't think this would affect me. However, the past 2 seasons have shown my body cannot meet the demands of professional football. I have tried everything during this time to stay injury-free, but this was an impossible task. I'd like to thank all the managers, coaches, backroom teams and players I have the pleasure to work with. I have made numerous friends for life and have made some unforgettable memories, from a magic night in Belgrade to winnings cup finals. He said winnings, such as winning in the Aviva, not to mention some great nights in between. Lastly, I'd like to thank the fans, from the jeers of away fans to the cheers of the home. Last year showed me without fans football is nothing. Excited for the next chapter in my life and looking forward to watching LOI games this coming season. So Carl Sheppard, just recently of Shelburne this season, has retired from football. I think he was with Everton and Galway, Reading, Shamrock Rovers, Cork City, and Shells. That was all the clubs he'd been at. I might be missing maybe one or two.
I think he was at Accrington Stanley in England as well, I think, briefly as well. Possibly. Yeah, I'm trying to remember when he went, in between his spells at Shamrock Rovers, he played with a couple of clubs, I think, across the water. But started off here with Galway and burst on the scene in 2010. They were involved, I think, in a bit of a relegation battle, and he scored some crucial goals for them. Got the move to Shamrock Rovers, top team in the country at the time. Won the league. He was instrumental. Won the Setanta Cup as well, actually, but he was instrumental in them getting to the group stages of the Europa League. And he was a fantastic player for them. And I think he moved across the water then. Played for the under-21s as well. and came back, did really well with Shamrock Rovers, Cork City as well, and as you know, Paul, with Shelbourne last year. So really sad to see that he has to retire at 29 years of age. And well, what can I say? Best of luck to him in the future. And but great talent and a great player in the League of Ireland, and he will be missed.
Yeah, I think it's horrible when you hear someone who's 29, as he says, he should be in the prime of his career, and he had to call it a day on that. It's sad to see. I know people. I know there's a lot of fans in the League of Ireland that don't like him, and there was a lot of stuff with the signing a pre-contract with Dundalk and stuff like that. But I think if you look at what he's won and stuff like that, he has had a very successful career. Despite only being 29, and you would have imagined that he would have kicked on. He does look a lot older than 29, I will say. Maybe that's just his hairline, but I thought he was a really good player when he was playing, and ever since I've been watching him, I thought he's been really, really good. But yeah, as you say, best of luck to him in the rest of his career, whatever he goes on to do. I know Shell's had something in place for him career-wise, so hopefully that works out for him, and he continues continues a new career even. But yeah, there's a couple of comments coming in there. Simon Campbell, who was live with us last night, he says, any chance Malumbi starting in Serbia if he matches the same form as last season on loan with Millwall? Well, he's not matching that form right now, and that's not his fault. He was on the bench yesterday. He came on as a late sub for Sean Maguire. Gary, I don't know how you feel about him. Obviously, we thought the move to Preston was going to be brilliant. Now, it's early days in the loan move, I appreciate that, but so far it hasn't been amazing. He's lost the 2 games he's played.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about since last year, he was so impressive on loan at Millwall. I mean, he's played and started for Stephen Kenny in the autumn, and he was one of the real bright spots, if not the bright spot of the Nations League campaign. He's done really well, and if you look at his international form, and I've been saying this, I was amazed he didn't get a look in Brighton, so I'm glad he's gone on loan. Okay, he hasn't got his place in the Preston team yet, but again, I'm absolutely amazed at this because he had done so well for the national team in the autumn, and I would imagine he will break in and start playing. I mean, he didn't go to Preston to sit on the bench because he was sitting on the bench at Brighton. So I would imagine he will break into the Preston team. They're not exactly pulling up trees in the championship. They're kind of mid-table. So surely he will get a chance to play. And if he's playing regularly for Preston and playing well, I think Stephen Kenny will pick him because he has to have been impressed with what he saw in the autumn.
Yeah, well, didn't he get? He won man of the match, or the FAI's man of the match award with against Wales at home. Thought he was really good in that game. He's made a couple of appearances in the Carabao Cup with Brighton, and I think he's played right back in one of those games as well. So yeah, he hasn't been getting much of a look in at Brighton after doing well with Ireland. He made his Premier League debut, which was a bit of a token gesture. He came on for the last minute, and while he was coming on, there was a VAR decision. I think Villa had scored, and it was disallowed for VAR, or it was a penalty. There was some dodgy decision, and then he came on just after that. But it would have been a horrific time to bring him on had that counted as a goal. So yeah, I don't think he's had the rub of the green so far with Brighton this season. As you mentioned, the Ireland stuff, yes, I'd love to see him playing regularly and seeing what he could do. I would have liked to see how he would have got on in the Premier League, but I thought Preston was a really good move for him. But I'm just hoping now that he can kick on over the next couple of weeks. And mind you, Preston haven't been great themselves, but you would have thought that Malumbi going there would have given them a little bit of a kick. But not yet, but I still think things could change easy enough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's gone there to sit on the bench, so I would assume he will get his chance very soon.
Yeah. Just a few comments coming in. Oisin O'Byrne says City, best team in the land and in the world. Actually, the results that went today could be very much in City's favour if they can get a result against Palace here. Tony P. Quinn says, I live in the Netherlands, and then that's a follow-up from the Carl Sheppard. He says, it's from a YouTuber who used them on a FIFA Ultimate Team. I think I've seen something like that. Oh, here we go. Daz the Killer has a better explanation. Basically, in 2017 or 18, some big Netherlands YouTuber was got him and as an informed card when he was at Cork. Basically, he was always used and is classed as a legend in his community. Happy days. So there you go. At least it's good to have foreign LOI fans. Well, thanks, Dazza, for clearing that up.
Yeah, never heard that story. It's good to see.
Yeah, well, at least he's getting some sort of credit. Then the Champ Dunker says, will you show the game? No, we're not allowed to show the game. We'll be shut down if we do. Our mate David Salter is here, and he says, how are you, lads? Paul, you'd be happy with Liverpool dropping points? Delighted to see Knight doing so well. A real case for Knight and Malumba to start in March. We'll be keeping an eye on McCarthy. We're good. Well, Gary, if you want to let them know how you're feeling.
Yeah, I'm good, David. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. I don't really care about Liverpool dropping points. An older me, younger me, would have been all over it. Now I don't really care. As long as Everton are doing well and kind of focusing on themselves, then I'm fairly happy. But it doesn't really bother me. It was a good result for City, as I mentioned there a second ago. So I think they're the real winners here, and if they can get a result, obviously James McCarthy will be looking to put a halt to that. But Jason Knight, yeah, it's great to see him doing well. I think that might be a thing by Rooney to try and put him in the shop window, but we discussed it last night in a video. If you haven't checked it, check it out after this. It's up on our channel now as a separate video. But we discussed we'd like to see Knight stay at Derby till the end of the season at the very least, if he's going to be guaranteed game time and be the star man in the Derby team. Whereas if he goes somewhere else, we don't know if he's going to be guaranteed to go and play, and that's not what we need ahead of March. And same thing with Malumbi, we need him to play before March to be considered in that midfield spot, because if he's not playing, I wouldn't start him. Mind you, not a lot of our players are starting. But Gary, how do you feel on, just on that comment there by David?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need, I've been saying this quite a bit, we need our players to be starting week in, week out and playing well. And certainly Jason Knight is doing that, and he's been a standout performer for Derby. He's finding the back of the net. As I said last night, I really would like to see him stay, although he's been linked with a number of Premier League clubs, and Derby County are in financial issues. They're waiting for a takeover that hasn't happened yet. So, yeah, it's great to see him do well, and he is making the case himself to start in March. And if he keeps playing the way he's playing, I don't think Stephen will probably have any choice but to start him. Jason Malumbi made more of an impact. We've just been saying in the national team, in the games against Finland, when he made his debut against Wales, etc. He played, as Paul said, he got man of the match. He's played really, really well. And unfortunately, he hasn't got game time at club level. So if Jason Malumbi is playing regularly for Preston in the next couple of months and playing well, I think Stephen will start him. So it could well be both of them in midfield. If there is, I mean, do you play James McCarthy then as well? Are you leaving out Jeff Hendrick, leaving out Conor Hourihane? Because I think it will be three. I think Stephen will play with three in midfield. So it can be a difficult one. I mean, I think even if you look at the midfield in Sofia, Stephen picked three different players for the next game in Dublin against Finland. So I don't know if he knows exactly who's going to play and who's going to start in Belgrade at this stage. So I would think virtually all the positions are up for grabs. But yeah, it could well be Jason Malumbi and Jason Knight as two of the three.
Yeah, but again, it's all about game time, and it's all about who's playing at the time and form. I think Stephen will be like that. I think he will play players through form. Hopefully, we won't be having a nightmare situation like we have done in the last round of international fixtures. It was an absolute disaster. I don't think it could have gone any worse in terms of COVID, and just everything went wrong that could have went wrong. Literally everything. And now it's still accumulating with the loss of the coaches and stuff like that. So it's just, we just need some stability, and we need, players coming in, and hopefully Stephen can have a settled squad, and we'll kind of have a better idea at the end of March what Stephen's best 11 is and what is kind of favoured formation and players. I would think his favoured formation is the 4-3-3, but just kind of hit the players and personnel, and whether Robbie Brady fits in that as a midfielder or as a winger, that type of thing is more what I mean. But I think that's something that we're going to have to wait and see. But we might as well just talk a little bit about Manscaped while we're here, because they are sponsoring this video. So head over to manscaped.com, use the code IFFTV for 20% off any of their products. But they've just released the Lawnmower 3.0 over on their site there, so you can be one of the first people in Ireland to get that. Perfect for below the belt grooming, and they've lots of other products there. They've got colognes, they've got deodorants, they've got dusters, they've got cleansers, revolvers, you name it. Head over there, use the code IFFTV for 20% off and free shipping. So, just while we're on the topic there, I want to talk about David McGoldrick and his form since he's retired from international duty. So, he scored again today against Spurs, another big team, and he scored 2 against Manchester United, and he scored against a couple of other big teams. But he seems to, I know Sheffield United aren't doing well in terms of results, but he is starting to really put himself out there, because last year he couldn't even get a goal till after the virus,
Yeah, he's doing really well. And as you say, Paul, he scored 5 goals in 13 games, and they've all been against the big teams. If you take it, the traditional top 6. I mean, he got 1 against Arsenal, 1 against Chelsea, 2 against Man United, and one today against Tottenham. And he is playing really well. Now, he was always, I think, playing really well. I mean, even he didn't score too often last season, but he did create quite a bit, and he was a key player for Sheffield United. But he's chipped in with a few goals this season, and you're looking at this and thinking, my God, if he hadn't retired from international football, I think he would. There's absolutely no doubt he'd be an automatic starter for the games in March. And well, I'm just wondering, and if I was Stephen, or I'd certainly hope that Stephen, and I appreciate the guy's retired, and we can accept that and really thank Dizzy for all he's done for us. But I would hope at least Stephen would pick up the phone and maybe just make one last effort. Please. Even if you just played for a couple of the crucial World Cup qualifiers to make yourself available. Even if he just played for Serbia away. And I know he's got a young family and wants to spend more time with his kids as well, and the demands of the Premier League. But I think he's still only 32. He's so much to offer. And even if he'd just play in the Serbia games and possibly Portugal at home in November if needed, I would just hope that Stephen could make one appeal to Didzy. Please, we need you. And a front 3 of Didzy, Aaron Connolly and Callum Robinson would give us quite a chance of nicking a couple of goals in March.
Well, I think what we do have an advantage is that obviously John Egan and Enda Stevens are both his teammate there, and you might get Stephen having a word saying, would you try and talk him around. You could get that, because I think Stephen did say in one of the press conferences not to rule it out for him to come back. So, as I say, don't rule it out just yet, but there's been no talk of him actually coming back. But I think it could be something that we need to look at come closer to the time if he's still scoring goals. And at that point, Sheffield United might be all but done, all but relegated. So, I mean, what else will he have to play for? And I assume the decision was made so he could focus more on his club football. But if they're going down, and he's doing well for Ireland in terms of, it could up his value, and the Premier League club might look at him next season to have around the camp or whatever. So you just never know. That could be an interesting one to see how that plays out, you know what I mean? But I think his form has definitely improved. I think he had an injury that was an ongoing hip injury that was bothering him when he did retire originally. So, yeah, you just never know. A lot of people have been very low at the moment, so that could be another reason as well. I think he's gone off social media. I think a lot of the Irish players have gone off social media. I don't really blame them, because I know Shane Duffy was getting a lot of online abuse. I think Didzy might have been getting abuse as well for retiring from international duty. I think that is a thing as well. is that I don't think fans really realise that when they start going, oh, we barely played a game for Ireland, whatever. How is he a great servant? All this, he was like he'd done a job for us under Mick in that campaign. He definitely did a job for us. He scored that goal against Switzerland as well. But I think when he sees stuff like that, I think he might feel I'm not appreciated by these fans, even though there's lots of fans like me and you who would be very appreciative of what he's done and would love to still have him, obviously, in the team.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think the majority of fans who go to the games, look, you go on social media, and I think I think people see it. You're a public figure, and unfortunately, people see they can just abuse you, whether it's a politician, a sports star, whoever it is. I think the majority of Irish fans, and certainly the fans I know and talk to at games, really appreciate what a quality player Didsy has been, and we're just going to miss him so much because he does so much. He creates so much. He brings players into the game. He creates chances, picks out. Okay, he got that one goal against Switzerland, which was obviously a crucial goal. Well, maybe it didn't matter in the end as we didn't make the Euros, but it was a crucial goal at the time. And I think he would be a great player to have around, at least for the key qualifiers. And I don't know, if I was Stephen, my take on it would be I would be happy to take somebody just for one or two of the crucial games. Maybe that's the compromise, because I know he wants to spend, I think he's 4 kids, so I know he wants to spend time with his children, and maybe the international weeks are the time to do that. But even just the Serbia games, or maybe Portugal at home, if he could just make himself available. I know I'd certainly appreciate it. I'm sure a lot of the fans would as well.
John Stones with the goal there, as you were saying it, sorry. Great header. He's in serious form anyway at the moment, John Stones.
He is playing incredibly well, yeah. Good ball from De Bruyne, and he just...
It's 1-0 to Man City, for anyone who's wondering. Well, just with Dizzy, hopefully that, hopefully he can pick up or keep going with the form that he's going, and then maybe Stephen says, listen, do you think he can come in and do us a job against, Serbia away, and just that game, and then he goes with maybe Ida or someone like that, or Collins for the other games. So I think he may be able to work around that, but I think it will depend on obviously Sheffield United and the way they're going at the moment. It doesn't look like they're going to stay up anyway, so what has he got to lose other than maybe the family time? But if he went home for the Qatar trip, no one's going to begrudge him that. If he does well against Serbia, no one's going to really begrudge him to go home to his family for a friendly game against Qatar and give some young lad a chance like Troy or someone like that if he's fit.
Yeah, so well, I don't know. I mean, we also have to respect the fact that he has decided to retire from international football. But if I was Stephen, certainly I would be at least making one phone call, or, as you say, Paul, have a word with John Egan or Enda Stevens to try and persuade him and say, look, we really need you and would appreciate it if you can make yourself available.
Yeah, exactly. Just going to go through some of the comments here. And let us know what you think anyway about Didsy as well in the comments. Don't forget. CPFC Nate says, I always dread City away. Yeah, don't blame you. Nate's been
Palace they have a very good record. I think they've won and drawn their last 2 visits to the Etihad. So they've actually done really well against Man City. And I know Palace have actually, I think they're the last club to have won at Anfield. I remember them a couple of years ago beating Chelsea when Chelsea were winning the title. So they seem to do really well away to some of the big teams and pull off some shock results. So obviously it's not going well for Palace at the moment, but they have certainly caused problems in the past.
Yeah. Sean O'Donovan says Stephen Kenny should do everything he can to get Dizzy back. Valentine's Day, flowers, the whole shit. I agree with you, Sean. What else is there? Just going through some of the comments. So I have the computer here with the comments. I've got the TV here watching the game, and I've got you all here. So Excuse me if you think I'm not paying attention. I am. There's so many comments that I'm just trying to get through. Don White says Manchester is red. Tom Flannelly says, hi Paul and Gary, will you be doing a video on our top 10 prospects for 2021? Really enjoy the channel. I'll probably do one in the next couple of weeks. Just kind of want to let things play out for a little bit first. But yeah, it's definitely something I'll be doing in the next couple of weeks. Do you think Irish players would become more common in the Premier League in the coming years? I think so, because if you look at it in the recent times, we have been, I suppose, especially the last year and the year before that. I mean, there was a bit of a drop off in between then, and then we started getting a load of regular Premier League players, and then it was youngsters coming in through the squad and stuff like that. So I think those youngsters are obviously going to get better and stuff like that. So I think so, yeah. I think I would like to get it back to the days when McCarthy was first manager and we had majority of our players playing in the Premier League and at mostly top clubs. Obviously, I appreciate when you would have been going to games. Obviously, Ireland had great players at the very, very top of their game, Paul McGrath and the likes, and Liam Brady and so on. Even the team from the Italia 90 and Euro 88, really, really class players. I'm not sure if that's what Daniel means. I'm not sure when we'll have really top level players. That's just the thing that time's going to have to show us. But what do you think about that anyway, Gary?
Yeah, you see, it's probably changed. I mean, if you go back, and particularly when I first remember and start watching football back in the 1970s, I mean, you would have no foreign players in the top level in England. So when I say foreign, I mean just from these islands. So in the top clubs in England, you just had players from these islands. I remember Spurs getting Ardiles in Villa in 1978 and Ipswich getting Franz Thijs, Aaron Muren, and they were kind of a novelty or a real exotic signings. And if you look at it now, I mean, the majority of the Premier League players, or a huge percentage of them, are coming from abroad. So it's a lot more competitive. It's a lot tougher for our young players to be in the Premier League and to be at the top clubs. Now, having said that, I think, and we've talked about this quite a bit, we do appear to have a very good crop of young players coming through. Our under-21s did really well, came so close to qualifying for the finals for the first time ever. And you have to think, I mean, I certainly have high hopes that the likes of Caoimhín Kelleher, Darragh O'Shea, Jason Malumbi, Jason Knight, we say Josh Cullen's in Belgium, but possibly come back to the Premier League. Well, why not stay in Belgium, top league? The likes of Troy Parrott, Nathan Collins, actually, forgot about Nathan. He's a key player who could well make it as well. Troy Parrott, Adam Ida, Aaron Connolly's already there and established in the Premier League. So there is a good spine there of young, talented players.
Bazunu as well, Gary.
Gavin Bazunu as well. I mean, he's playing for Rochdale at the moment, but at Manchester City, he looks like a real prospect as well. So there is huge potential that there's a crop of young players, which we probably haven't had. And I'm going back again to the late 90s, and actually to Mick McCarthy, as Paul said it, when the likes of Robbie Keane, Damien Duff, Ian Hart and all them, they all came on the scene. Richard Dunn and so on. Shea Given, Richard Dunn, they all came on the scene at pretty much the same time. There was a friendly in the Czech Republic in the late 90s when I think quite a few of them made their debuts. Shea Given was a bit earlier than that, but it's around...
and O'Shea was a bit later too. John
O'Shea was a little bit later. He was... and now some of that came actually from the underage teams that did so well in 96,
Andy Reid and so on.
Andy Reid, 98 as well. So you have potentially a crop of very talented young Irish players on the cusp of becoming Premier League regulars, which will certainly help the national team. 2021 might be a little bit too soon. But definitely the squad for qualifying for the Euros for Germany 2024 is really exciting, and it's potentially a really exciting time. And who knows? I mean, some of them like Darragh O'Shea, Jason Malumbi, they got their chance. We're saying we're really unlucky with injuries and COVID in the autumn. But because of that, I mean, players like Darragh O'Shea, Jason Malumbi got game time that they would not have got otherwise. And I think we've really benefited from it. And I think we're saying that probably those two in particular could well start, be regulars in the starting 11 now because of that. So pluses and minuses, but for me, I think in the next year or two, I think we will see more Irish players in starting regularly in the Premier League. And the national team, instead of being maybe, as it is at the moment, quite a few Premier League players and with a few Championship players thrown in, will be, I would hope that certainly in the campaign qualifying for Germany 2024, that we would have pretty much everybody starting in the top leagues, possibly Josh Cullen in Belgium, and who knows, maybe Jack Byrne in Cyprus or wherever.
The only thing I would want is if they're Premier League players, fair enough, but they have to be playing. I don't want someone who's just sitting on a bench, like at the moment, the way Conor Hourihane is, for example. If he's playing Premier League and he's playing regular, or even if he's playing top level Championship, obviously I would like him in there for what he offers him, you know, his experience, and he's familiar with the squad and so on. But I just mean in terms of just using him as an example at the moment, the way he's not playing, you know, I wouldn't be called upon him to be definitely starting, obviously in the squad, but not definitely starting, you know. Which kind of brings me on to our next point, which was kind of Conor Hourihane has been linked with a move to Swansea, and it seems to be a very strong link. The Athletic were you know, the ones linking it the other day, and it seems as though he could go there. He's not getting much game time at Villa since Ross Barkley's came in. Villa are doing quite well. It's a bit of a COVID outbreak there at the moment. They weren't due to play Everton this weekend, but didn't. That was postponed. But I think it would benefit everybody if he probably went on loan to somewhere like Swansea.
Yeah, I agree, Paul. I mean, he lost his place, as you say. He did start and played regularly enough early in the season. He lost his place to Ross Barkley, and then I think Ross Barkley's got injured, but he's back again now. And Conor's been mainly on the bench, so he hasn't been getting much game time of late. Swansea are absolutely flying. They won away from home again yesterday. They're, I think, still second in the Championship. Great chance of automatic promotion, if not at least will end up in the playoffs. And I think it would be a great move for Conor, because he'd be going to a Championship club, particularly a top Championship club. And I presume, I don't know a lot about the Swansea midfield, I'll give you that, but I presume they want him on loan to start and to play regularly. I don't think he'd go to South Wales to sit on the bench. So I think he needs game time. He needs to be playing regularly, and it's much better to be starting and playing for Swansea than sitting on the bench at Villa, because, as you say, Villa are doing really, really well. They're probably punching above their weight at the moment, and unfortunately it's going to be very difficult for Conor to get back into the team and to get some game time. I was reading online, and it's good to hear this, actually. The Swansea fans were really excited about Conor coming to them, and they were saying, make it happen. And the Villa fans were really upset over it, which I was kind of pleasantly surprised to see. And they said, see him as a valuable squad member. Unfortunately, they weren't calling for him to start, but they didn't want to see him go. They reckoned it would weaken the squad quite a bit. So, but I think for being selfish and from an Irish perspective, I want to see him play week in, week out. There's a couple of months to go to the game in Belgrade, and I don't think that Conor could start in Belgrade if he's not playing regular football week in, week out.
Yeah, well, just go to what the piece said in The Athletic. I have it here on my phone. It says, The Athletic are reporting that Swansea, who are second in the Championship, also hope to sign Conor Hourihane on loan from Aston Villa. Hourihane has only made 4 Premier League appearances for Villa this season and will be seen as a replacement for Morgan Gibbs White, who was returned to Wolves after his loan spell at Swansea was cut short. So that's the reason why he's now linked. I think, as you said there, it obviously is nice to hear that fans of Villa are unhappy that he's going, but at the same time, you could, if Howard's not playing, and I'm sure he wants to play. I know he loves Villa as a club. I know he loves them, but if you're not playing, you have to go somewhere to be playing, especially if you want to be in contention for international teams and so on. And I think with Swansea, who are second, they're 4 points off top, and I think they're 4 points off third. Then Bournemouth are 4 points behind them in the league table as well. So I think it makes sense for him to go there. If he's coming into the summer then as well, having secured promotion with Swansea, he's going to be in good form coming into the international qualifier. So I think it ticks all the boxes for everyone. Maybe Villa fans will be unhappy. I know Dec Pearce, obviously DJ for Today FM, absolutely adores Conor Hourihane, and he always goes on about how much of a valuable player he is. But the thing about Conor is he'll come in for Villa sometimes and he'll be the best player on the park, and he'll score a couple of goals, he'll get a couple of assists, and then he'll have a couple of good games, and then he'll kind of Villa, well that was more last season, but Villa will kind of go downward of a little bit of a spiral, and he kind of goes quiet then for a couple of games. Still think he is to show his best form for Ireland. I think a lot of people would say that as well, but I think it's just the way we play. I think sometimes it just doesn't suit him.
Yeah, another thing, I mean, and an important thing for Ireland, and I mean, we were talking, and I was saying earlier about a midfield of James McCarthy, Jason Malumbi and Jason Knight. If Conor gets left out, we actually need somebody on set pieces. And, well, the obvious candidate is Robbie Brady. That would mean playing Robbie Brady as one of the front three. But I think one of Robbie Brady or Conor Hourihane probably needs to start, because free kicks, corner kicks, etc., set piece delivery is such a crucial part of our game. And at least one of Conor or Robbie, I think, is needed on the team, because I don't think, I'm certainly not aware of anybody else with that level of quality at delivering at set pieces, and could be the crucial way, as everyone knows, we badly need a goal, and good set piece delivery could well be the route to that goal, hopefully in Belgrade.
Yeah, exactly, but I do think it might be time for someone else to step up and start taking free kicks and corners and stuff like that. I think we can't always be relying on the two lads, especially if they're not playing. We can't always be relying on them. I know they're dependable members of the squad now, having built up experience. And I think Robbie Brady's actually playing really well for Burnley. The only problem is he keeps getting little niggles, and then he's being taken off and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure the last game he played, he completed 90 minutes. So long may that continue. He just turned 29, still has a lot to give. I still think he's our best creative player by a long stretch. I think if we're playing with a number 10 as an attacking midfield, I think that should be him. You also mentioned yesterday that if we're playing with a front three, that right side of the front three is open. Again, I think he could play there as well if needs be, to allow someone like, or that could actually be open for Jason Knight, because that's where he played against Bulgaria as well. So there is options there, but it is about having one of them in the squad. But it might be a chance to look at other players who might take set pieces, but just might not take them for their club just yet. Or so someone like Jason Knight could be really good at taking set pieces, but it's just that he's young and learning his way, that maybe he hasn't been given that, I suppose, responsibility. So yeah, it will be interesting. But as regards Hourihane, you are happy to see him going to Swansea?
Absolutely, and I hope it happens, or if not Swansea, but I hope he does go on loan somewhere and he gets game time. But Swansea, second in the Championship, doing really well, winning every week. If he was going there, playing every week, winning most weeks, I think it would be a great boost for him. Get game time, get his confidence up, and I think it would be very difficult for Stephen to leave him out from the starting 11 then in March.
Yeah. Well, let us know what you think as well. So just going through some of the comments here. There's a good few now. Who is talking to us? Adam Byrne asks, who do you think could replace Alan Kelly? Gary Rogers? I think Gary Rogers is doing something with Monaghan GAA, I think. Someone like that, or some GAA side. He's going to be the goalkeeper coach for them now. So I don't know. I don't really think it makes much sense to get him in at this moment.
I don't think he's had enough experience. I mean, he's only just retired from playing as well. So yeah. I know he was a goalkeeper.
Williams has been,
even.
Sorry?
Yeah, Steve Williams was Stephen Kenny's goalkeeping coach, but I think he's made commitments as well to some. I think it could be Loud GA or something like that. I think Steve Williams is committed to a job with the GA as well. So
Well, he obviously took the last session for us when Kelly decided to not travel. So he was the coach for that night.
So yeah, maybe. I mean, it's hard to tell. I know Shea Given is the goalkeeping coach at Derby, I think, isn't he? Yeah. So
Yeah.
he could be an option as well. It's probably up to Stephen and see who Stephen wants in the role and who he feels comfortable working with. And but I suppose there are plenty of candidates available. I mean, it would be a part-time role. So if Derby were allowing it, I'm sure Shea Given would be available. I don't know if Steve Williams is how tied in or whatever contracts he has signed. If he's available, maybe available part time. I don't know, but it is whoever Stephen is comfortable, and I think it has to be someone the manager is comfortable with and wants to work with.
Yeah, well, he doesn't seem to have much of a relationship with Robbie Keane. I know Shea Given's good mates with him, so that might play a part. But then again, Duffer would have been good mates as well with Robbie. So, and he seems to get on well with Stephen Kenny. He left obviously after falling out with the FAI. So we'll be interested. We'll be interested to see who comes in as Duff's replacement as well. Obviously, John O'Shea has been tipped, same as Lee Carsley. We spoke about that last night. But again, there's no point in us saying who we'd like to see as a coach because it doesn't ultimately have an effect. All we can do really is react on who is coming in as the coach because we're not going to have any say on it, you know.
Yeah, it has to be who Stephen wants. I know Robbie Keane would solve a problem for the FAI because he's on the payroll. But I think Stephen made it clear that he didn't want Robbie back in the summertime. So I don't see him, for whatever reason, choosing Robbie. I think he'll probably go with somebody else. But time will tell. We'll see who he wants.
Yeah, just Simon Campbell says, lads, what are your thoughts on Duffy starting in Serbia? On current form, I have Clark in instead. Duffy would normally be an automatic starter, and rightly so, but currently his confidence is rock bottom. It is a difficult one, and I know we spoke about this last night, not really at length, but it is an interesting one. Like, Shane just doesn't seem to be having a good time of it in Scotland whatsoever at Celtic, and it seems as though no matter how well he plays, it always seems to be one little error that leads to a goal, or has, one little error and it's magnified 10 times more. I think that goes down to fans not being allowed in ground and stuff like that, and they're taking all their frustration out online at him. I think that's why he's came off social media. I can't confirm or deny those claims, but I know he's definitely come off Instagram probably for a while, and rightly so. I can totally understand why he has, if that is the case. But Clark's done really well. I think Egan is still doing really well, even despite the results. I know today they were battered by Spurs, but most games they've been in, they've only been losing by the odd goal. Still think he should be looked at by a Premier League club next season if and when Sheffield United do go down. And then you have Darragh O'Shea, and you have, who else? Kevin Long. You have a whole selection of centre-backs. And I think we actually forgot about Kieran Clark last night when we were talking about centre-backs. I knew I was forgetting somebody. But yeah, Clark's been in fantastic form and has all the experience there. Probably the next best to Duffy in terms of having that experience for those big European games or big qualifying games. And I think he would probably be a definite option for Stephen Kenny to come in there, maybe to partner John Egan in central defence. What do you think, Gary?
Yeah, I mean, Kieran Clark is playing really, really well for Newcastle. I believe he's in talks. If he hasn't signed a new contract already, he will be signing a new contract soon. I know Stephen had him on the bench in November, but I think he was only just coming back to full fitness there after the injury. So yeah, on current form, he has to be in with a great shout of starting. Now, Shane has never left us down, and he's played really well for his country. I know he's having an awful time of it in Scotland and getting terrible abuse from the fans. I don't know, maybe he's turned a corner. In the last, I actually watched the Celtic Hibs game on Monday night, and I actually thought he played really well. But then, unfortunately, he was partly at fault, and I would say partly at fault. But he wasn't great for the equalising goal, which of course gets all the fans on his back again. And I believe, I didn't see anything of the game yesterday, but I believe he played pretty well. And I mean, well, Celtic kept a clean sheet, so that's all you can ask of your centre half. If you draw 0-0, you keep a clean sheet, and he's played reasonably well. So maybe he'll find his form again and get a decent run of games. I mean, it was pretty poor reflection on Shane's form when Neil Lennon. Well, one, he left him out of one of the games just over Christmas. And then when the centre half went off injured, he actually brought on a midfielder and played the midfielder in the centre back role. Yeah, Bitton, that's right, with Shane on the bench. And then for the Old Firm game, he actually started Bitton. And it's only when he got sent off that Shane came off the bench and got his place back. But, well, hopefully he's got his place back. Now, I know Celtic had COVID issues as well, so they have players coming back now. So I don't know if Shane's actually going to keep his place. Hopefully he's done enough in the last 2 games to keep his place. And but yeah, as of now, it's probably a good shout to say Kieran Clark or possibly Darragh O'Shea. I mean, Darragh O'Shea is playing really, really well in the Premier League as well, and did really well for Ireland in the autumn. So I think we're talking about John Egan. I think John Egan is an automatic starter, and he will, if fit, he will certainly start in Belgrade. But if we're going with 2 centre backs, it could be interesting to see who will partner him. Could be Shane Duffy, it could be Kieran Clark, and it could well be Darragh O'Shea.
Yeah, but I just think the way Shane's last year has gone hasn't been good for him personally, and I think his football as well. And obviously we spoke about him last night as well, and how he hasn't let Ireland down. Sorry, he hasn't let us down. I feel as though he maybe had a bad game in one of the summer games. Was it? I think it was one of the Bulgaria game with the first goal, and then he obviously got the equaliser. I think that was probably, and he made up for it by scoring the equaliser. I think that was the only real thing you could have really blamed him for out of those games that were played. Some will say the Finland goal as well, maybe, but I think that John Egan was just as much at fault for that one. But I think other than that, then after those summer games, I thought for us he was fine. I thought against Hibs the other night, I think it was, I thought he was doing really well. He was organising all the young lads around him and organising all the defenders. You got to remember, he carried Matt Doherty through that game against Wales at centre back as well. He basically coached him through the game beside him. Now I know Matt Doherty is a professional and stuff like that, but Duffy was telling him where to go, where to be, and everything like that. And Matt Doherty didn't look out of place at centre back in that game. I know Cyrus Christie came on for Matt, and we were, I thought we were the better team against Wales that time. So I do think you're right in what you say, that I think Duffy could still come back in and do a job, but I just think maybe leave him out of the limelight for the next while until he maybe picks up form. But he might pick up form between now and March anyway. So it is a bit hypothetical right now. But yeah, I suppose if I was going for it right now, I'd probably have Clark and Egan starting, just purely down to Clark has the experience in games like Serbia. That would be the only reason. I think Darragh O'Shea would be unlucky not to start as well. But it's good to have the options. And again, I'm not Stephen Kenny, so I'm not guaranteed that any of these players are going to start. But it's just my personal preference, And I think having someone like Darragh O'Shea or Shane Duffy, and Shane Duffy's been his captain. Let's not forget, when Seamus Coleman's not been there, Shane Duffy's been the captain as well. So let's not forget that too. So he does have responsibility there, and he might feel more confident. I know he thinks he plays better when he plays for Ireland than he does for any other team like Brighton or Celtic or whatever. From speaking to him, he's told me that personally, that he feels like he plays better for Ireland, but that was under Mick. So I haven't really seen him in person other than press conferences to see under Stephen or whatever. But as I said, the only 2 games that he performed moderately bad in, it was just one mistake that led to a goal. That seems to keep on happening to him, unfortunately, in the last while. But in the summer, that was the only thing. It was the Bulgaria game, and then he got the equaliser with the last shot of the game, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, we have been saying for a while that possibly one of our biggest goal threats at the other end of the pitch is Shane Duffy from a corner or a free kick. And so a lot will tell on his form with Celtic over the next couple of months. I saw there has been talk he may end up with Chris Hughton at Nottingham Forest. I'm not even sure if it's allowed to go on loan to a third club in the
I think
the
it's
12
dead in
months.
the water. I think
Okay.
Forest fans were saying online that they don't need him right now. They have centre backs there, and Celtic came out saying that they're not letting him go basically. So I think
Okay.
it's been
But
put dead in the water now.
well, hopefully he'll be playing regularly, keeps his place, plays week in, week out, and gets his confidence and his form back. And another thing we have talked about before is, I suppose, the different styles, and maybe Scotland doesn't really suit Shane Duffy in that. If you take the Scottish League, Rangers and Celtic are typically well ahead of the other teams, and they're normally camped in the opposition's half. And Shane will be playing with a very high line, etc. Whereas previously at clubs like Blackburn, Brighton, he would have been playing in a club that's in a relegation battle and would be the ones that would be pushed back, and he'd be doing a lot of defending in his own penalty box, etc. So it's getting blocks in, getting his head on corners, crosses, etc. So it wouldn't be a case of trying to catch forwards from the halfway line, etc. And he wouldn't have been. Now I know Stephen plays this way as well, but he wouldn't be as in. Take John Stones, who scored tonight. He wouldn't be your typical John Stones type of central defender who's very comfortable on the ball, bringing the ball out from the back. And but the downside to that is that's probably the way Stephen wants to play as well. And if you're looking at a defender who does that, then Darragh O'Shea is more of in that mould than Shane Duffy, or even Kieran Clark, who I think is a really talented player, and he's been a bit unfortunate with injuries and would have had quite a few more caps for us if he hadn't. But he is fully fit now, and he's playing really well for Newcastle. So, yeah, away from home in Belgrade, in a tough game, tough place to go. Maybe the experienced head is what Stephen will go for.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Anyway, hopefully, he can just turn things around, because you don't like to see any of our players going through a barren spell or not enjoying their football. David Salter says Dizzy getting abuse for retiring. That's awful. Sure, he owes us nothing. I agree with Paul regarding Callum Robinson down the middle, but he is tough enough. But is he tough enough to hold it up? Is it too early to start Ida? I think with that. I said that last night about Robinson. I just think Robinson right now and this season down the middle for West Brom, especially in an isolated role, he's done quite well. He's scored goals, he's won penalties, he's won fouls further up the pitch. So he knows how to play that role. And largely for Ireland, you're going to be isolated as a striker just naturally. Even with Stephen Kenny, we've been isolated at times in some of the games as well. You might have your 4-3-3, but when we're not in possession, we're basically a 4-5-1. We have players behind the ball, and if the striker can't hold it back or hold it up, we are pinned back. Whereas if we can get someone like Didsey, for example, who can hold it up, and he does allow then our players to stay high in support with him. But I felt as though and it's been an ongoing thing for the last probably 10 years or whatever, that it's been an isolated figure up top, and then you have your wingers behind him or whatever, but they're probably asked to do a more defensive job, obviously, with Ireland than you would naturally. But I think that goes with a lot of teams as well. I mean, only Liverpool really, or those types of clubs, City, those types of clubs, will be actually allowed to have players that just stay up and don't get back defensively. James McLean's worked tirelessly as a winger for us over the years, and then Callum O'Dowd probably on the other side, and Robinson as a right winger as well has done well, working up and down and getting back. But I just think as a centre forward playing purely through the middle, I would like to see him and see how he would do for Ireland. I actually think he would do quite well, and I think I'd have Aaron Connolly to the left of him, and then there's other positions up for grab. Now this is hoping that everybody's fit. That I would definitely have those two up top. Pace, can get in behind, they're clever, they can win fouls, and yeah, they're energetic, they can get it, they have that bit about them. But then again, and I know Gary's mentioned this before, Does he have the physicality like someone like James Collins probably doesn't? If you're looking at goals, James Collins is the man in form as well. And I wouldn't be against James Collins, but I just think I'd like to see how Callum would do as a central striker for Ireland. That's just my thoughts. What about you, Gary?
Yeah, I mean, he is. I don't know about Belgrade as a central striker. He is playing well in the Premier League, and I think he probably will start in Belgrade, but possibly more on the right with Aaron Connolly on the left and James Collins. Well, I don't know about James Collins, and I don't know what Stephen thinks of James Collins. He is probably the only striker we have scoring regularly, albeit in the Championship, but he's still scoring. Will he go with Callum Robinson then? Possibly play Robbie Brady on the right, coming in on his left foot? I don't know. I mean, that's why we go back to the Didsey point. It would be really great if we had Didsey in Belgrade, because, as you say, what he does with holding up play, bringing others into the game, and if we're under the cosh, he was a great outlet as someone for the defenders to find with a ball. You knew if it went up to Didsey, it would stick instead of coming straight back from somebody else. So, yeah, I think Callum Robinson probably will play in Belgrade, but I suspect more likely on the right than down the middle. But who knows? And we'll see what options are available to Stephen.
Yeah, and then just with Adam Ida, he needs to just be playing. Stephen could well start him against Serbia. He seemed to trust him in the games that he had him. You know, any game he was fit for, he started him pretty much. I think, except was it one game? I think McGoldrick started and Ida came on from. Was it the Slovakia game? I think.
Yeah, I don't think he started in Bratislava. I can remember now. I can't remember the lineups. Yeah,
McGoldrick would have started. I think Ida came on from, but I think in every other game, Adam had started any game that he was fit. So I think Stephen does trust him, and he might have him in there ahead of James Collins, which would be interesting. But I think Collins didn't do much against Bulgaria. But I think he played, is it Wales or something, he came on, he made a bit of a difference, I suppose. Put himself a bit about. But yeah, look, I just want us to win games and start scoring goals. And, you know, let's just worry about the strikers at the time.
Yeah, the issue I have with Adam Ida, Paul, is that he has played very few games of men's senior football.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I agree.
And I don't think he's played enough to. No, hopefully he'll be back fit fairly soon. But I think he needs to get back fit soon, and he needs to be starting and playing regularly for Norwich. And then he gives Stephen a problem, because I think although Stephen started him in his first team in Bulgaria, it was probably maybe a little bit out of the blue, because okay, he had made a big impression last season for Norwich in the FA Cup, came on and got that hat-trick and everything, but he didn't play that much. He got the odd run out. I was really hoping that he would become a regular in the Championship, and okay, he's been a bit unfortunate with injuries. He's also probably unfortunate that Norwich have kept Timo Pukki, and well, they're top of the Championship now as well, so their aim is to go straight back up. But I was hoping that maybe they'd let one or two of their more established stars go, and Adam would get a chance to play every week. So even when he comes back fit, I think he's due back in early February, I believe, was the last update I'd seen.
Yeah, so he had COVID at the moment, though.
Yeah, but I mean,
might delay his getting back.
Yeah, but okay, but hopefully, I mean, he can get back fairly soon. But if he's back in early to mid-February, there's 4, 5, 6 weeks before Belgrade, and I don't know. Norwich are flying the top of the Championship. It's going to be very, very difficult to break into that side. And if he's not starting, okay, he may be coming off the bench for them or something like that. But if he hasn't played enough in the Championship, I don't see Stephen starting Adam in Belgrade.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just laughing at that image that went up on Instagram there. Just picturing those 4 lads standing there with the tattoos and stuff like that. Sorry, okay. I wasn't laughing at what you were saying. I was just reading some of the comments on it. But yeah, let's see some of the other questions or comments. Where are we? Brophy, I'm not adding you into the group, so stop asking. Can't add you in. It's not Instagram Live. It's myself. It's the Paul and Gary show here tonight, so sorry you can't come in. Alpha Q says, what's the latest on Obafemi going to Swansea? He's not going anymore. He got a muscle injury and had to get surgery. He's out for the rest of the season. He's definitely out for the next while anyway, so he probably won't be able to have a medical, and I think that's the reason why he was due to go out on loan to them. It would have been good to have him and Hourihane there, but it looks like just Hourihane will be there. Cullen Dean says, smash the likes so he knows what's up. Also, Cullen, you should tell them to head over to manscaped.com, use the code IFFTV for 20% off and free shipping. Support them because they support us. What else have we got here? Kelleher to start in the FA Cup versus United, hopefully. At the moment, Daz the Killer says, at the moment I take Brady just on the basis he's playing and is getting a couple of assists. I'd take him anyway, because Robert Brady has something different to what we have anyway. I think he has that bit of creativity, he has that spark, he has that sharpness about him. But again, it's easy for us to say this now because we're in January and he could pick up a knock between now and then. Please God he doesn't, touch wood that he doesn't, but you just don't know. And that's the problem with club football. It's not a problem, but it's the situation, isn't it? Because you just don't know who's going to be available, and there's injuries and there's so many other things. And at the moment, COVID is another thing. Now, you'd expect with vaccines and stuff like that, you'd imagine the players would be vaccinated first, or at least given the option or whatever through their clubs and stuff like that. So you'd hope that would be the case, but that's the problem with international football, is that, and especially the last time, it came at a really bad time. I don't think those games should have went ahead back before Christmas there. I think they could have probably been pushed back or rearranged or something like that. I think it was a really bad time. I think it showed by so many teams were depleted, no more so than us. But the way things transpired, we just had to get on with things. But I think Robbie Brady, yeah, I think he's a shoe-in to start if he's fit. Definitely. I think you feel the same way, Gar.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, he does bring something to the team in that he's creativity. He's someone that can pick out a pass. And I go back to the set pieces again because I think they're absolutely crucial. And I don't think, Paul, I know you may disagree on this, but I don't think we're going to have somebody other than Robbie Brady or Conor Hourihane taking our set pieces anytime soon, because it does make a huge difference to the quality of the delivery. And if you think of someone like David Beckham, who probably made his career on being one of the best in the world at delivering free kicks, corner kicks, and scoring from free kicks. Now, I'm not saying we've anybody in the David Beckham level at set pieces, but I think someone like Robbie Brady or Conor Hourihane have an ability to deliver quality, accurate balls that I'm not aware of anybody else in the squad that has that capability and the ability to do that. So I think both will be in the squad, and I expect one of them to start if available. And but we'll see what happens. Maybe Stephen has other ideas.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens, as you say. I just think it's time for someone else to step up and show that they can take set pieces. That's all I'm saying. I mean, Robbie Brady, for me, as I said, hands down, our best player in that department for deliveries and for... I mean, he set up our last goal, didn't he? Against
Against Bulgaria.
Against Bulgaria, yeah. Duffy's header. And then he set up Derek Williams for the goal against New Zealand as well from his corner too. So he definitely has a lot of goal involvement. And I think he was possibly unlucky in the last game we played against Bulgaria. He had a couple of opportunities.
And he scored the goal in Lille against Italy that he'll certainly... Whatever happens from now on, that goal and that night and that game will go down in Irish footballing history. The goal to send us through to the last 16 of the Euro 2016.
But did he not hit the bar against Bulgaria? I know, yeah, I agree with you for the Lille thing, but I think he hit the bar against Bulgaria and was unlucky not to score. There was another game against Wales that he probably should have scored. He intercepted the ball from, I think it was Joe Allen or someone like that. He got the ball, ran at the Welsh defence and then shot from the edge of the box and hit it wide when he probably should have. I think it was
Yeah, so I
striker,
mean,
deciding
I
player
think
to me.
what you're saying, he is a goal threat, and he has the ability to either score himself or certainly create something for somebody else. So yeah, going forward and with creativity, uh, he's an option. He's also an option at left back if Enda Stevens isn't available. He may well end up being the cover for Enda Stevens, or other possibly it's Seamus Coleman and Matt Doherty could possibly be the two fullbacks, with Matt Doherty playing left back in that situation as well. But hopefully Enda Stevens will be fit and available.
You have Ryan Manning as well as another
You're Ryan
alternative.
Manning as well, yeah. But I suspect Stephen would go with Robbie Brady in that case.
Yeah, well, we wait and see. It is one of those that it's just you can't really make a decision on it right now. If you are just joined us, it is 1-0 to Man City. John Stones with the goal, the header, and we're just going through talking points and taking people's comments and so on. So anyone who's joining that may be a returning watcher or whatever, make sure you subscribe, give the video a like, and give us your thoughts in the comments if there's something you want to discuss. Let us know, and we'll have your name pop up there, like Charles Abraham, who says, "Story lads." How are you, Charles? He also says, "Did you hear the news that Keane said in the Sky Sports box that he grew up supporting Spurs?" I didn't hear that, and I don't believe that. So yeah,
That's Roy Keane, is it?
yeah. Not well, Robbie. He supports everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. Has a Kane circle time says, "Big up to the boys at Sugondes Futsal Club. Big up, lads. Shout out."
My guys, yeah.
Charles says, "What relation does Robinson have to Ireland? Are his parents Irish or something? Because he sounds as English as could be." He is English. I think it's his granny. I think is the Irish one. Yeah, so that's how he's. I think he's a granny real player. I don't really care as long as he gives his all for Ireland. I think any game he has, he's ran his socks off and worked hard for Ireland. So
Yeah.
that's all we can really ask for. Charles, all his mates supported Arsenal, so he wanted to be different. I think that's in reference to Roy Keane. Charles says, "I would personally have Aaron Connolly on the left too, as he knows how to cut in and curl the ball into the bottom far corner, as he has done against Spurs and Newcastle. The goal against Palace was pure pace." Yeah, no, I agree. Did he score against Palace? I don't know. Thought it was Burnley, no?
Okay, I can't remember now. Yeah.
But
anyway, I think I would definitely have Aaron Connolly if fit, starting. I think he should be an automatic starter, and possibly, yeah, on the left is the obvious one, but possibly down the middle as well. That he could be an option as a centre forward.
Yeah,
but I think he definitely starts for me.
I'd like to see someone up top with Connolly. I've said this already. I'd like to see it too. I would like to see maybe a 3-5-2 with wing backs. Play the wing backs in their best positions, and then great goal, top bins.
Yeah, Gundogan, however you pronounce it. I know I'm getting it wrong.
What a peach of a goal! That's one of them you score in FIFA. And you just finesse it into the top corners. Anyone who plays FIFA will know what I'm talking about.
I
know you don't play FIFA.
Goal. Yeah, I don't play FIFA, but that's a lovely goal. That's,
well, you're on the ultimate team here, you know. Look at this. Great finish. Yeah, postage stamp. You can't blame James McCarthy for that. Andros Townsend messing about with it at the edge of the box and gets intercepted. And Ilkay Gundogan has fired it in top bins. It's 2-0 to Man City. I would suggest the game's pretty much over now, even though it's half an hour to go or 35 minutes to go. But you never know in football, so we'll wait and see. But just going through some of the other comments there. Or did I go off point there? I think I went off point because the goal put me off. I think I was talking about Aaron Connolly and saying about the wing backs and stuff like that. I think a lot of our players are not. Well, look at, like, for example, Matt Doherty. Not playing for Spurs. Aurier had a great game today. Pretty sure he scored today.
He scored the first goal, yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like Matt Doherty's going to get in ahead of him anytime soon. Now, injuries and stuff like that, I appreciate can play a part. But, you know, in an ideal world, he would have been first choice. Seamus Coleman's been in and out of the Everton side. I think Carlo Ancelotti's been trying to rest him in games because we've had so many games in quick succession. I think he's been trying to rest him and bring him in in games where he probably wouldn't get run ragged, like against the Wilfred Zaha or something like that. He's bringing him in for games against probably slower paced wingers just to get him up to speed, because he did have that injury that ruled him out after a great start to the season. So our two right backs aren't in the best of form at the moment. But if you could try fit them into a system where you could play Callum Robinson and Aaron Connolly up top together with a 3-5-2, three centre backs, that might accommodate Darragh O'Shea as well in that. With Clark and Egan, maybe that could be good, or Duffy in there. It doesn't really matter to me. And then you had your midfielders, but you had your wing backs, Enda Stevens and say Matt Doherty as your wing backs. That provides the width for you. I think that would be a realistic option. I think that would probably get the best out of Connolly and Robinson. I think Connolly's been playing in it too anyway when he started with Maupai most games as well. I know you don't think he's going to go with it.
Yeah, well, what you say makes sense. I mean, if you're talking the players available, we have a number of good defenders. We have a number of options at the back. I mean, Shane Duffy, you mentioned Shane Duffy, John Egan, Kieran Clark, Darragh O'Shea could all play as part of a three, might be more comfortable as a three. Or fullbacks would be more comfortable as wingbacks, especially Matt Doherty and Enda Stevens anyway. And as you say, Aaron Connolly's more comfortable as a two. But having said all of that, I don't think Stephen's going to go with that, because he knows the way he wants to play, and he wants to play his system, and he's typically played 4-3-3. I know not all the time, but pretty much for much of his career, he has gone with 4-3-3, and as Irish manager so far, he's gone with 4-3-3. So I think it's unlikely he'd change that for Belgrade. Now, I don't know, maybe he'll pull a surprise, and it may make more sense for a number of the players you mentioned. Might be more happier playing with three at the back, playing with wing backs, playing with two up top. But the way Stephen likes to play the game, it's four at the back, it's three in midfield and three up top.
Yeah, well, I suppose. But he has, and I said this to you loads of times, he hasn't ruled out playing with a two, and he said it in press conferences. So I'm not giving up hope yet. Okay. So you can keep saying it and being stubborn.
I'm not ruling it. I'm not ruling it out. But and it makes I can see why it would make quite a lot of sense for quite a lot of the players. I mean, we talked about Michael Obafemi earlier on, and. He certainly is someone who I think needs to play as part of a two up top, but obviously not available now anyway. But it can make sense from that perspective. But then there's the way Stephen has typically played, and he wants to play, and he is a manager who has his way of playing, and that's the way he likes to see things happen. So I think the players will more than likely have to adapt to his system than Stephen adapting to the way that suits the players. But time will tell. You could be right.
Well, let's wait and see. Mick Killeen says, "Hi lads, if everyone was available, what would be your team for the Serbia game?" So I'm going to ask you formation and your team that you would go for. Go into your head right now. Players in form right now.
Well, okay. Going to my head, I'm going to go with then. But I am going to go what I think Stephen would pick now with the players in form.
No. So, go with what you want. He's asking what your team would be, not what Stephen's team would be.
My team, you see, my team probably I would actually go for three at the back as well then. That's
go, tell us your formation and your team.
All right, my team then, I would have Darren Randolph in goal. I would have Matt Doherty and Enda Stevens as wing backs. And I would go with John Egan, Darragh O'Shea, and probably with Kieran Clark on current form. That would be my back three. The three, I would have three in midfield. And on current form, I would have James McCarthy. I would have probably Robbie Brady and Jason Knight. And up top, I would have Aaron Connolly and Callum Robinson. So that would be my team if I was picking the team. But I do not expect that formation or that team in Belgrade.
That's pretty much what I would have gone for, but I would just swap Josh Cullen for James McCarthy on current form. So I think
And I would
everywhere
like
else I would agree.
to caveat it by, I think Jason Malumbi could well be in the team if he gets a run, but given that he has played very little club football.
Yeah, but you're only going off what right now.
I'm going off right now.
Yeah.
So that's right now, gun to my head and picking the team. It could well be different. It could be Jason Malumbi, it could be Shane Duffy in March. Hopefully Shane Duffy will be back to his best form.
Yeah.
But that would be my team and my formation with the players we have available for Serbia.
Yeah, well, not everybody's going to agree. That's the beauty of opinions and stuff like that. Like, I've only probably gone with one player different to you with Josh Cullen, just purely down to the fact that he's playing regularly 90 minutes. McCarthy's been in and out. He's played decent today, but City just look on a different level. I think they'll be right there for the title race. I think they'll actually challenge Liverpool a lot more this season. I think they look a lot more up for it this year. And I think they're actually like being the fact that they're kind of going under the radar, and United and Liverpool are being talked about a bit more. I think City will go on. I know we're going a bit off point there, but McCarthy's doing well here tonight. Hopefully, again, as I say, he can keep playing games and then crack on that way. But
I think Josh Cullen could well be the holding midfield player for many years to come. But I think Belgrade...
He's 24, Gary.
Yeah, but he's still relatively young. I know he's probably been at West Ham quite a while without getting a chance or getting that much playing time. But I think Belgrade away from home against Serbia is a massive ask. And that's why if James McCarthy was fit and available, I'd go with him. But possibly let Josh Cullen start against Luxembourg.
So just a couple of people, while we were obviously talking about that, a couple of people are putting in comments there. They say Charles Abram is going with Randolph, Stevens, Clark, Egan, O'Shea, Doherty, Brady, Knight, Malumbi, Connolly, Robinson. And then he said, personally as a team, I think it looks okay, but I'd be surprised if one of them score. And then he says a 5-3-2 formation, by the way. So I think he's gone similar enough. And then Padder McCarthy says Josh Cullen in there, my man Padder. He knows what's up. And then I'd agree there, Charles, maybe McCarthy for Knight. So I think most people kind of have similar teams to us, and I would probably go with that formation as well. There's a question for you there I'll come back to in a sec. Daniel Danini says, what is your opinion on the possibility of there being 2 LOI clubs in Limerick?
Well, I hope, first of all, that we'll definitely have one club back in Limerick for 2021. I mean, as I said before in the channel, 2020 was the first year we haven't had a team since Limerick joined the league in 1937 that we've been without a club. I know there's nothing sorted out. I believe Treaty United have made a licence application, very impressive one, and Pat O'Sullivan's Limerick FC have made a licence application as well. I personally wouldn't like to see 2 clubs. I would hope that both sides could come together and that there would be one club in the city. I don't think the city is big enough to support 2 clubs, and I think it could just cause too many issues. There aren't enough players. I don't think it's possible to have 2 academies, etc., etc., etc. So hopefully not, but I think the most important thing is that there is senior football back in the city, because it's badly missed and badly needed.
And if they were to come together, what would you call them? Treaty or Limerick Treaty United, or?
I think the reason the Treaty United name came about was because Limerick FC and Pat O'Sullivan had registered a number of the Limerick names. So they could have, I think it would be Limerick something. I mean, if they don't agree on Limerick FC, you don't need to have Treaty in the name. I think it's the Treaty United they went away from having Limerick in the name because they were threatened with legal action. So okay. I think Treaty can be dropped. So it can just be
John Stones again.
Oh, it's the second one for him.
Yeah, he's playing unbelievably well. Ball whipped in from a corner. I think Diaz got a header to it, and keeper made a save. Then Stones came in with his left foot and buried it in the bottom corner. 3-0 to Man City. You were saying about treaty. Sorry.
Yeah, so the name, they were actually originally going to be called Limerick United, and there was Pat O'Sullivan and Limerick FC have registered a number of Limerick names. So I think it's Limerick FC, Limerick United, Limerick City, etc. So that's why they went for Treaty United, because Limerick is known as the Treaty City. So I don't think there is any what would I say, love or need to keep Treaty in the name.
Okay.
And likewise, I think the colours, the red and white striped colours that the Treaty United women's team have been wearing, they're the original football colours for Limerick from back 1937, but we switched to blue in 1943. So I think what most people in the city would want is a club, one club in the city with Limerick in the name. I don't really care if it's Limerick FC, Limerick United, Limerick City, Limerick Athletic, Limerick Wanderers, Limerick Rangers, Limerick Celtic, Limerick Mönchengladbach, whatever. Just playing in the city, playing in blue and white. And that's certainly what I want. And I think that's what most football people in the city would like. So I hope that both sides can come together. And I suppose maybe somebody in the FAI could go down as an honest broker, as a negotiator. And I know it's difficult in these COVID times and something, I suppose you do it over Zoom these days, but maybe just get everybody on a Zoom call and hopefully iron things out and sort it out. But yeah, we need senior football back in Limerick.
Well, there you are, Daniel. I hope that gives you a good explanation. Sorry about the mid-goal outburst, but we're obviously trying to keep people updated as well. Jen Byrne says, you must be 10 seconds ahead. Thanks for the commentary, LOL. So we must have broken the news for him. Charles said, oh yeah, it was Burnley. He scored against Knock Palace. That was against Kevin Long, actually, last game of the season last year for Aaron Connolly. That was... Right, what other comments have we got here? Keep the comments coming in, guys. We've got 24 people online in total. And make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you comment as well, if you want to comment. Davis also says, Paul, you should do Everton career mode, turn Liverpool blue again, whilst giving game time to our top up and coming gems. I might do a series or something on Twitch or something like that. I'm still trying to figure out all that type of stuff and how to do that. So don't rule it out in the future, the streaming and all that type of stuff. But right now it's not a goer. What's very disappointing is that Brighton fans don't really rate Conley, but yet he shut them up with a decent performance, the one against Liverpool, for example. I don't think he's that bothered, to be honest. I think Brighton fans mainly, I haven't seen them giving him much abuse or saying that they don't rate him. So, I don't know. There's one. Des Gallagher says, see Jack Byrne in Apoel squad today, played the last 20 minutes. Yeah, it was good to see, but we know that he's just coming back from fitness, so it's going to take a couple of weeks just to get back up to speed, and then hopefully he should be back starting games and playing. I think they were winning 3-1 when he came on. The game finished 3-2. That's nothing to do with him. But yeah, I think he just needs some time to come in there. Joe Garner wasn't playing today as well, so I think Jack's a little bit more fitter than him probably right now. But it's good that he has someone there that speaks English and he can kind of relate to and stuff like that. So I think he'll see the best of him in the next couple of weeks, and I think that we shouldn't really be worried about him not being played so far.
Yeah, and a good win for them today. They've won 2 and drawn 1 of their last 3 games. And I was saying that the Cypriot League, it actually splits into the top 6 and bottom 6, or whatever, top 6 and 8, whatever way it works out. But there were only 3 points. Suddenly now they looked in a right relegation battle, 2 points off the bottom. Now they're only 3 points. There are still a few places, but they're only 3 points off the top 6. So given their recent form and given they're such a big club, it wouldn't be that much of a surprise now if they could kick on and actually get into the top 6 before the split. But another crucial game for Apoel on Wednesday night. They play Apollon Limassol, who are the league leaders. But they play them in the Cypriot Cup, and realistically it's still their best route into Europe for next season. So hopefully Jack gets a run out on Wednesday night, and hopefully Apoel do the business and get through to the next round of the cup.
Yeah, well, let's hope. Donica, he might have said this before we were talking about Limerick there. He says, not international related, but does Gary see a senior LOI club in Limerick again as a fellow Limerick man? And then he says, Phil Duffy is just not quick or technical enough to play the same game Stephen wants to play. But just on the Limerick thing, if you want to give him an answer there.
Yeah, I do. I mean, hopefully this year. I mean, I would hope that we would have, well, ideally one club. I mean, I know there's talk, there's 2 clubs have actually applied for a licence. And I think that would be a bit of a mess, but I suppose 2 is certainly better than none. But I would expect that we would have a senior team in 2021. I believe we should know by about the first week in February. And as I was saying just there earlier, that I hope the 2 sides can come together, the Treaty United and Limerick FC, and come up with one club and something that's agreeable to all. But yeah, it's badly needed, and we need senior football back in Limerick.
Yeah, I don't think you really need to go back into the Duffy thing. We've already spoken about that at length, and in the last 2 nights, I think we've spoken enough about him. You know, I don't think there's much more we need to say about him. Big man Jane Duffy says, "What's up? How are you, mate?" He comments on all our videos. He's the first to every video. Whacking the comments.
Yeah.
But yeah, Charles Abraham says, "I really hope that Parra kicks on and starts scoring some goals. It's worrying for such a talent to get game time, but no goals to show." I think he's playing the poor Millwall team. I don't think that's his fault that the goals haven't been coming. If you're not playing in a good team and they're not creating chances, look at Ireland, for example. You know, it's hard it's hard for players to score the goals if they're not getting the chances created for them. What were we going to say, Gary?
Yeah, it is. It's good he's getting the game time. I think it's a good point. They're not scoring goals, but as you said, they're not creating chances either. And Millwall are struggling for form. But it is very good for his development that he is playing. He's been coming off, or he's been substituted, but he gets maybe 60 minutes or 30 minutes. But it's huge for his development that at this stage, 18 years of age, don't think he's 19 yet, that he's playing.
I think he's close to being 19 next
month.
I
think it's February. Yeah, I think it is February is his birthday. But that he is playing and getting game time, getting regular men's football. I mean, we were talking about Adam Ida earlier on. I'm sure Troy's got a lot more minutes in club football now than Adam has. And it's great to see, and hopefully he will continue. I think the chances and the goals will come, because I know he's someone I and quite a number of others have probably identified since he was about 15 years of age that he has the potential to be the next star for the national team, to be the next, well, I don't want to put too much pressure on the guy, but certainly to be the next superstar, the standout player that could play and be a regular in the top 6 Premier League clubs. So, I mean, it's good to see that he's playing, that he's getting the game time. Yeah, I'd like to see him get a goal or 2, but the main thing is that he is playing, he is developing, and it will stand to him in the years to come.
Yeah. I think, well, I don't know, because I think Adam Ida played a few games last season, I know, in the Premier League, but I know he was a sub for a lot of those as well. But I'd say they probably let on par in terms of getting minutes played at men's football, but I would like to see the 2 of them playing a lot more football. But it is good to see that we have good up-and-coming players and strikers that, you know, are coming through, because a couple of years ago it didn't look like we had anybody coming through. So it's just nice to have a selection of players. You've got 4 or 5 players there. You've got Scully at Lincoln. You've got Parrott, Ida, all under 21 strikers. Obafemi, Connolly. So you've got all those. Afalabi, Ryan Cassidy as well. I know. I appreciate not all of them are scoring goals and stuff like that, but we do have strikers that over the next couple of years could develop, and you never know, they could develop into really good players. So hopefully. There's a couple more comments here. Then we'll get on to Roy Keane and his truly return to management as well. So Charles says, seeing Paul doing FIFA Ultimate Champs on Twitch will make my week. Well, you don't rule it out. As I said, I don't really like that Ultimate Team. I don't really like playing that. I prefer just playing seasons. So you go up and down. I haven't been relegated in FIFA 21. I play Pro Evolution Soccer more, the 2021 game. I played that way more. I think it's a much better game. A lot harder online, but I play that in seasons as well. But when I play FIFA, I mainly play seasons, not Ultimate Team. I have no time for the Ultimate Team. Not football related, but will you be watching McGregor versus Poirier fight? I will. Gary probably won't. He wouldn't be
no,
up with that.
Never watched that stuff anyway. Sorry.
No,
Totally
I'd be
passed me
more
by.
into boxing. I'd be more into boxing than the UFC than Gary would. But yeah, I'll be watching that. I watched Max Holloway last night. Great performance by him and great win. Then Des Galler says, if 4 or more stable clubs join the LOI in the next few years, would you be in favour of reverting the Premier Division back to 12 team or keep it as a max of 10? I don't know how you feel about that, Gary.
Yeah, okay. I mean, obvious bias with my Limerick bias, but I do think to have a vibrant league and that it needs to be spread around the country, and you need to have a club in Waterford, a club in Cork, a club in Limerick, Galway, Sligo, Finn Harps, Derry City, one in the Midlands, either Athlone or Longford, and probably Dundalk, Drogheda, as well as the Dublin clubs. And pretty much in recent years, it's been dominated between Dundalk and the Dublin clubs. I mean, okay, hats off to Rovers, Bows. I know, look, they're doing fantastically well, and it is up to the other clubs to come up to the mark. But I think to have a truly national league, you need to have strong clubs around the country as well. So I think 12 probably works better than 10 there. But again, you need to have the quality there. And I mean, you've had issues with clubs just not being well run enough, etc. So what do you say? I mean, there are signs, certainly signs of things making a comeback in Galway. I'm hoping Limerick. What I mean by Galway is they've done really well under John Caulfield and hopefully challenge and get back into the Premier Division in 2020 for next year, 2022.
Yeah, maybe via the playoff when Shells go up automatically. Yeah.
Okay. Well.
No, go on. I'm just messing.
I think there's just too many Dublin teams as it is in the Premier Division. But anyway, we leave that one go.
Shells are sleeping giant, though. You have to admit.
Yeah, but Pat's Bows, Rovers, so it's just too many. I mean, I would like to see the league spread, so I would obviously like to see Limerick come back. It would be great to see Cork back in the Premier Division. Second City just has to be back there. And I mean, I grew up on the great Waterford teams. I first started going to watch Limerick at 4 years of age, and that was the time Waterford, the first real season I can remember, 71-72, Waterford won the league. They retained the league the following season. They haven't actually won it since, but they were, when I was watching football first, Waterford and Cork Hibs were the two top teams, the two biggest teams in the country. And so it would be great even to see the likes of Waterford, Cork, Limerick, Galway, as I say, back in the Premier Division. So for me, I would go for a 12-team Premier Division, but appreciate maybe the quality isn't there at the moment.
Yeah, well, I would agree with you, and I would like to see it spread out a bit more. I do agree, but I do think Shells should be in the Prem, and that's where they belong, and I think that's where they will be, and hopefully after this season they will be. But I don't want to speak too soon because we know what happened last time I did that to Aaron Howie online. The funniest thing is people think that me and Aaron don't know each other and that we give each other a stick. Like a lot of it's premeditated. Like a lot of it's stuff that we slag each other about. It's all banter anyway, but we know. But people online seem to think that we actually have a dislike for each other, which isn't the case. Aaron's a legend. He's obviously in our WhatsApp group and stuff like that. So some people down in Cork actually think that there's an ongoing thing between me and him because there's a bit of banter with Everton and Man United as well as obviously Cork and Shells. So it's purely just banter for anyone who may be online and maybe thinking that there's some sort of beef. There isn't. He's actually the best marketing man in the League of Ireland, I think. Dan Lambert will be right up there as well, to be fair, with both. But I think that Aaron is superb in what he does with Cork and how he always keeps them very much relevant, and their graphics and their unveilings of kits, and he unveils a lot of kits. But I think he's great in what he does in terms of the publicity he gets for Cork and stuff like that. And he won a host of awards last year as well. So I think he does a great job with Cork. So power to him. But speaking of Cork, and this is something that we wanted to get onto as well. Should Roy Keane return to management? He's obviously on Sky. He's doing I suppose you'd say he's doing a great job as a pundit, because a lot of stuff he does actually say does tend to come off, but has a bad reputation obviously with Ireland. Things didn't go that well towards the end. Obviously done well as an assistant manager when we got to the Euros and stuff like that, so credit where it's due. Towards the end it didn't go too well. Himself and Martin O'Neill went to Nottingham Forest, but in terms of his own management career, I think since Ipswich, I don't think he's managed a club. He's come out and said a few times that he would like to become a manager again. I know he said it in that off the ball roadshow thing with Gary Neville. He said he'd like to get back into management. It'd be nice to get a couple of interviews and something like that. So I think he's calmed down a little bit in terms of what he's saying as a pundit. He's not as, I suppose, harsh. I seen him today. He was very complimentary of like Spurs and stuff like that. I think he's kind of using that as a window for him to show that he can make sense, and at the same time he can be, I suppose, at times not an absolute psycho. Whereas obviously at times when he wants to go mad, he can be, and he doesn't care who he hurts or goes mad at. But do you think going back into management could be a real possibility? And if so, who would you think would be a good fit for him?
Yeah, I don't know if it is, Paul. I think part of the problem, I mean, Roy Keane was a great player. I mean, certainly one of our greatest ever players, arguably our greatest ever. I know some people will say he was our greatest ever. But part of the problem for some of these players is when you're a manager, you're managing players, sometimes all the players that have never been at Roy Keane's level. And it can be very difficult to relate to that, to relate to their ability, to their desire, to their work ethic. And I think that's caused him problems. And it's a tough one, because if you're going in as a manager, I mean, Wayne Rooney is someone who certainly seems to be doing really well at the start in Derby. I know they were beaten yesterday, but it can be very difficult to start down the level, down the leagues, down in the championship. But then as a top player, are you going to get a top club and test the water with the best players that I suppose Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, you could say, has got Manchester United now from effectively moulded, but even he struggled at Cardiff initially, and okay, top of the league now, could potentially win the league. But I don't think Roy Keane is going to get a top club at this stage. I saw he was mentioned at Celtic, and he was reasonably high in the betting, but I think he's gone way down in the betting since. And I think, Neil Lennon, I know, is in a job, but if the Celtic job was to become vacant, and there are certainly rumblings on that. I know Roy Keane had been talked about, but I don't think that's realistic anymore. I don't see him getting even a championship club at this stage, or certainly not one of the top championship clubs. And I think it'll be very difficult for him. And he did do well. He did well at Sunderland, but he struggled big time, and I think it ended badly as Irish manager. And certainly if the reports, or if you listen to the WhatsApp recordings or anything like that, it doesn't bode well. So I don't actually see him getting a top manager's job in England or Scotland at this stage. I don't know, would he go abroad? I mean, I know he was linked with the Azerbaijan job, but I think he would have had to go and live in Azerbaijan for that, which I don't think he was willing to do. Would have been very interesting, actually, given that we subsequently drew them in the World Cup, if he was managing against Stephen Kenny, but obviously it's not going to happen now. But so I don't know, Paul. I don't actually see him going into management anytime soon in a top job, and I don't know if it would suit him to be down the leagues, and I think he would struggle.
There's been a lot of you sound like you're a little bit underwater again. I don't know if it's your mic or whatever, but Roy was linked with the Salford City job. which I think if he did do that, it would make sense. He goes to a lot of their games. I think he lives near there in Manchester, and obviously Gary Neville and all those United players. Oh, Sterling with a peach, top bins again. But I think Roy Keane. Yeah, I think Roy Keane going to Salford would make sense. I think they've got a new manager in there now. I'm not too up to date with Salford. I know Richie Tell's there. That's about as far as I know about them. I've watched them on Sky Sports in a documentary. But in terms of them, I had heard he's been linked there. I know he's been in a lot of their games. So that could be something. Obviously, Scholes, all the class of 92, all those lads are involved there who would know Roy quite well. And Gary Neville would obviously be working with him on Sky as well. So I think they could potentially look at him in the longer run, maybe not right now, but in the longer run, he could be someone who could get them up the leagues. I think that's someone who they maybe want, but it would be an awkward conversation if they were to sack him, how that would go as well, if he did get the job in the end. But I think that's a place where he could realistically go. I don't realistically see him going to Celtic or anywhere like that, but I do think a Salford would probably tick the right boxes in terms of not having to move, in terms of knowing the surroundings of the club. He'd probably know the history of the club. He'd know what's expected of him. He'd go in there with a really good reputation. So all the things there, I think, would make sense if he was to go back. But he seems to want to get back into management really badly, and he seems to be really missing it. I think in his own head, he sees himself as a Manchester United manager one day, especially if Solskjaer has come in there. I know Solskjaer has done well recently, but I think he sees himself as a Manchester United manager one day, even if that opportunity probably looks like it's gone. But he's been an assistant manager in a lot of his last couple of jobs, so it will be interesting to see how he got on as a full-time manager, you know.
Well, I mean, there was talk that he could be the next Irish manager after Martin O'Neill. I mean, had things gone or ended differently, I don't see that. I don't think it's realistic. I don't think we'll ever see Martin O'Neill manage Manchester. Sorry, Roy Keane manage Manchester United. We won't see Martin O'Neill manage Manchester United either. I don't think we'll see Roy Keane manage Manchester United. I mean, I might bring up an example.
I'm just saying he probably sees things in his own head.
He might see it. I mean, I'll bring up an example of. I know you probably won't appreciate this one, Paul, but I will talk about a younger player who was also a great player, and that's Steven Gerrard. Fantastic player with Liverpool. And Rangers took a chance on him effectively as manager, and he has done a phenomenal job. And I mean, and he is well in the race to be the next Liverpool manager. And certainly, actually, if you're saying it, not that Jurgen Klopp is going anywhere anytime soon, but if he was to go, for example, go back and take the German national team for 2024, which I know is what they want actually, but if Jurgen Klopp was to leave, I mean, Steven Gerrard, he's on his way to, effectively, has already won the title in Scotland, and has proven himself as a young man, turned from a player. Now, he was lucky to get, let's say lucky, he probably to go in at a top club as opposed to, like Wayne Rooney, have to go in at a Derby or something like that, and it can be very difficult to prove yourself in the Championship or lower down. But, I mean, he would be very much, I think, in the mix to be the next Liverpool manager. And I think it's probably passed Roy Keane by the chance to be the next Manchester United manager or something like that. Maybe he was hoping to get the Celtic job. I think it's probably unlikely at this stage. And I don't see, even if he took the Salford job, I don't know how realistic that is. I don't even know who their manager is. I mean, how successful do you have to be there? I mean, you'd nearly need to bring them up to the Premier League or something to make a name for himself to be considered for the Manchester United job. And I think there's been too many years since he stopped playing that he hasn't been successful at management to get a chance to manage a club like Manchester United. And plus, well, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is doing so well there at the moment, and they're top of the league, could well win the league. I know I said last night I actually think Man City will win the league, but I think Man United have got to have a great chance.
Yeah, well, I just think it's gonna have to be one of those where we'll see about the next kind of couple of months. I think he's not doing himself any harm being on Sky and being in and around the football circles. I think that's actually working out well for him, and I know he's made a point before saying he doesn't like people going on TV and giving interviews, and he's a hypocrite in that regard. But I think people enjoy it, whether he stays on Sky as a pundit or not. I think people enjoy listening to him. I think he always has an interesting insight. Whether sometimes he can just be saying stuff, it seems, just to get a reaction, but sometimes he can talk a lot of sense as well. I think people at football clubs and stuff like that will be looking at that and saying, "Do you know what, we might take a risk on him." I mean, if someone like Joey Barton can get a job with Fleetwood Town, I think Roy Keane could definitely get a job, because he's a bit mad as well, you know.
Does he want to manage someone like Fleetwood Town and just be
I think it's all he can
mediocre
get right now?
Yeah, but it's just, I mean, Joey Barton is, well, I mean, they're a very small town. I think, I mean, one of the jokes when Sunderland were playing there, that the Sunderland away support is bigger than the Sunderland home support anyway, is bigger than the whole of Fleetwood. I mean, you mentioned Gary Neville there as an example. Gary Neville is a superb pundit. He went and he managed to get the Valencia job, which is obviously a top job in Spain, and effectively he failed. And I mean,
yeah, but he
failed.
He had genuine reasons for failing, though.
There were genuine reasons, and there were issues, and there's huge financial issues with Valencia. But I mean, he's back now, and he's a superb pundit, and I actually love listening to Gary Neville. I really enjoy Roy Keane on Sky Sports. So, from a selfish point of view, I'd rather have him on TV as a pundit, because he is box office. He's great to watch, but I think Roy Keane, he may want to get back into management, but I think he would only want to be a manager, or his aim would be to be a manager at a top club, something like Manchester United. And I presume Manchester United is actually his ideal job. And I just don't see it happening. I don't see it being possible. I don't see it being that he would go to someone like Salford City, that he'd be happy doing that for a year or two. I know they've actually got quite a bit of money behind them, and with the class of 92, etc. But is he going to be impressed enough at Salford City? Is anyone going to impress enough down in League One, League Two, to get to be the next manager of Manchester United? It's not going to happen. I mean, there's just so many top managers around these days across the world that would be well ahead of him in the pecking order. I just don't see it happening, and sadly, a great player, but I don't see him becoming a great manager. I think it may already have passed him by.
I think money talks. I think if he was given an offer for Salford or someone like that, I think he would go into it. I think, why wouldn't he? What's he got to lose? You know, he wants to become a manager, and he's got backing behind him. Salford want to get themselves up through the league. I think that would be the perfect scenario for him. But it's only hearsay for now, you know.
Yeah, I don't know if it's about money. I think Roy Keane has made enough money in his career, and he can probably make more money as a pundit than he would as a manager. I think he probably has the desire to be a manager and to be a top manager. But so yeah, maybe we'll see what happens, and maybe save the video and prove me wrong in 5-10 years' time when he's manager at Old Trafford and winning the Champions League or winning the Premier League. But for me, I don't see it happening. I don't see him ever managing at a top club.
But I'm not saying that he's going to be Man United manager. What I'm saying is that he probably thinks of himself one day as being a Manchester United manager. I'm not saying that he's going to do brilliant with Salford and then become Manchester United manager. I'm just saying that he probably, because he's mad in the head, like, he probably thinks that he's going to be Man United manager one day, or he has aspirations if they needed a caretaker manager like Solskjaer came in. I imagine he sees himself as that, and that's why I think he'd like to be in management, in relative circles, day-to-day management, that if that opportunity ever arose in the future, he wouldn't be so long out of the game that he would be able to come in and do something. That's what I foresee anyway in the future. I think, or Celtic, one of those. I think one of those he could end up at in a caretaker role in the future if they were really struggling for someone to come in, just to maybe see it out for a couple of weeks or months or whatever. But I do think he should return to management in some form. Maybe Apoel will sack their manager in a couple of weeks and Roy Keane will be the manager there. That would be interesting.
They sack their manager every few months, but if you're talking about, someone like a former player, you got Wayne Rooney. We talked about him earlier on. He's making an impression. I know it's early stages in Derby County, But there's someone that could well become a future manager of Manchester United. But
I think he wants to be an Everton manager, to be honest.
Or maybe a future manager at Everton as well, Paul. That's true. But
I think he said that before. That's the only reason I'm saying it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's why not? They were his, obviously his original club, his boyhood club, etc.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it. Let us know your thoughts anyway. Do you think that Roy Keane should return to management? And don't forget to like this video as well. The game has just finished about 5 minutes ago, and Man City won 3-0 against Crystal Palace. We are going to shoot off now. I am starving.
4-0, wasn't it?
4-0, sorry, Sterling scored
4-0.
at the fourth. Yeah. But let us know your thoughts in the comments anyway on the stuff we've spoken about. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. If you want to follow us, our handles are under our names there. And if you want to check out manscaped.com, use the code IFFTV for 20% off and free shipping. We'll speak to you later on. Thanks for engaging. Thanks for getting involved. And we'll be on again during the week, I'm sure.
Okay.